After getting the class change certificate, Suemo immediately returned to Harkins. His class trainer, Raglan Kent, was there. He sought him for the level 10 class change, and he would seek him again for the level 30 class change. The Kent family was nobility in Tallinn. This family seemed to have monopolized the positions of hunter-type class trainers in most towns. Even in the other two countries, a small number of hunter-type class trainers were named Kent, so it was not an exaggeration to say they were the continent's #1 hunter family. Additionally, several famous judges in Tallinn also bore the Kent family's surname. It was hard to say if Sumo's class trainer was skilled, but he was unusually ugly, because he had no nose. Even Voldemort without a nose wouldn't be handsome, let alone Raglan Kent, who wasn't particularly handsome to begin with. And his defining characteristic was that he hated all men who were relatively handsome. Thus, Sumo's misfortune began. There was nothing he could do. He couldn't bring himself to say he wasn't handsome. At first, he thought this class trainer was cold to everyone, but later he learned the reason, though it was already too late. "Mr. Kent, I've brought the class change scroll." Suemo carefully handed over the scroll. Raglan Kent looked at Suemo with an expression usually reserved for cockroaches. He asked skeptically, "Class change? A level 30 class change? You really?" "Yes. Isn't this the class change scroll?" Suemo said proudly. "I need to verify this, you cunning brat." Raglan Kent closed his eyes in great pain. He could effortlessly tell that the class change scroll was real. He very reluctantly announced that Suemo had completed the quest, and under Sumo's schadenfreude gaze, he took out the reward Suemo was entitled to. Suemo wasn't worried at all that this verbally abusive trainer would withhold his rewards. In fact, the reason the Kent family could control almost all hunter-type class trainer positions in Tallinn, besides being the #1 hunter family, was also related to their family tradition. The Kent family crest was a scale, symbolizing justice. Even if they died, they would not tarnish the family's honor, so it was even less likely for them to bring shame to the family in their family business. Suemo received a system notification telling him that he had completed the class change quest and had become the second player to successfully change classes in New World. This surprised him a bit. He hadn't expected someone to be faster than him. Current experience is 30% at level 10. The experience reward for the second successful class change was 10%. Pets did not receive experience, only he did, and some reputation. Reputation is very important in New World. Some places can only be accessed when reputation reaches a certain level. Some quests in the Mercenary Hall are restricted to those with a certain reputation, and most quests deduct reputation upon failure. Many cities have reputation shops where special items can be purchased. The equipment reward was a pair of silver equipment boots. The attributes certainly weren't bad, but they couldn't be exceptionally good either. Heart of Gale, silver equipment agility +10, constitution +5, movement speed +5%. Equipment required level 30. Durability 40/40ths. It didn't have special effects, so it wasn't considered particularly good silver equipment. But with agility +10 and movement speed +5%, even the most critical person wouldn't think this equipment disgraced its silver equipment status. Raglan Kent also gave him a bundle of arrows, special quality carved feather arrows. This was quite a ripoff, as the one thing Suemo had in abundance was this item. As for the 100,000 yuan reward for the top 10, it would be directly deposited by the official. The two quest clues from Gara, totaling 400,000, had all been deposited. Adding his own 100,000 reward and the original 220,000, Sumo's total assets had reached 720,000. Perhaps many people in New World earned more than him. At least Gara definitely earned more, but compared to ordinary people, Suemo was undoubtedly a winner in life. As for whether they could complete the quests in the top 10, that was no longer Sumo's concern. The quests were triggered almost simultaneously. Suemo completed his second, and he believed Gara's arrangements for the other two wouldn't be much slower. If they couldn't make it into the top 10, it just meant their strength was lacking. In fact, after he switched to Ferocious Wild Wolf Lai Fu's perspective, he learned about the progress of the other two quests. Tiger King Angus had already been harmed. Ferocious Wild Wolf Lai Fu would never admit it was because of him. It was all Sumo's intelligence. Sloth King Foles would probably also face a similar fate, as players' levels were already very high now. Many people with connections and status could gather a large number of helpers. Ferocious Wild Wolf Lai Fu's old companions either advanced to gain powerful levels and attribute templates, or they could only bully new players. They didn't have to worry about not having players to kill. However, he didn't see Yellow Lion Demon in the low-level chat group. He initially thought this guy hadn't refreshed, but who would have thought that upon entering the high-level chat group, he saw Mangy Yellow Lion Lawn wailing loudly. Mangy Yellow Lion Lawn. Oh, my dear mother, why am I so miserable? Ferocious Wild Wolf Life Fu. Brother, you've advanced. Why are you crying? Salted Fish King Victor. You usually don't find love around the corner. You might encounter a beggar. Green Lizard Orlando. He was killed by a beggar with an iron-eating beast. Not only was his lion's head taken, but his long-saved possessions were also plundered. He who hunts geese all day ends up having his eyes pecked out by a goose. A robber met a robber. Silver-horned giant deer Yuzi. Oh, asterisk greater than over equal to less than over equal to Phil. Gray-headed wolf King Pi C. I didn't expect grief and indignation could also turn into power. He advanced just like that. Mangy Yellow Lion Lawn. Boss Lai Fu. You must avenge me. Ferocious Wild Wolf Lai Fu. Alas, money is an external thing. You can't take it with you when you're born or when you die. If it's gone, it's gone. We can save up again slowly. You should be happy that you finally advanced. Mangy Yellow Lion Lawn. Woo, my gold coins, my attribute pills, they're all gone. Salted Fish King Victor. Young man, what's wrong with having no money now? You'll have many more days with no money in the future. Mangy Yellow Lion Lawn. Woo-woo. Ferocious Wild Wolf Life Fu. Don't cry. I don't have gold coins either, but I'll give you an attribute pill. Just stop crying. We'll have a chance to rob again and earn some. Mangy Yellow Lion Lawn. Boss, you must take me to rob. I've failed to rob several times already. Ferocious Wild Wolf Life Fu. Absolutely. Mangy Yellow Lion Lawn. If you ever encounter a hunter with an iron-eating beast in the future, just kill him to avenge me. Ferocious Wild Wolf Life Fu. Brother, not everyone with an iron-eating beast is your enemy. What if we kill the wrong person? Mangy Yellow Lion Lawn. I don't care. I don't care. Ferocious Wild Wolf Life Fu. Alright. We'll kill that idiot. Iron-winged Eagle Snow. Ferocious Wild Wolf Life Fu is generous and loyal. I've decided you're my friend. Ferocious Wild Wolf Life Fu. So, friends, who knows which map today's Tower of the Heavens and Tower of the Reaching Heavens will spawn on? One-legged King Allen. I envy those with many legs, who can go anywhere. Salted Fish King Victor. The Tower of the Reaching Heavens will spawn by Marseille's Riverside this afternoon. I'm in charge of guarding the tower. It's a shame. I thought I'd have a chance to clear 3 stages in a row. Iron-winged Eagle Snow. How unlucky would one have to be to run into a salted fish king like you? Ferocious Wild Wolf Life Fu. It shouldn't be that coincidental, right? After all, there are so many people challenging the tower. If I encounter you, Old Tua, can you please go easy on me? Salted Fish King Victor. You just need to do this and that. Ferocious Wild Wolf Life Fu. Absolutely. Langley Parrot Jamie. Today I finally heard the Salted Fish King speak like a normal monster. Since it's so lively, why shouldn't I join in? Marseille's River, right? See you this afternoon. Salted Fish King Victor. No, big shot. Please let me go. Iron-winged Eagle Snow. Old Tua, don't be a coward. It's just a little parrot. Beat its ass. Salted Fish King Victor. Tears welling up. Life is more than just the immediate struggles. There are also poems I'll never understand and distant places I'll never reach. Lai Fu immediately retreated after gathering the intel. He absolutely had to go to the Tower of the Reaching Heavens. He could win big prizes just by answering a few kindergarten-level questions. So why not? Before that, Suemo retrieved several hunter-type skill books that Gaara had prepared from his mailbox. The most expensive among them was a flashbang. A flashbang can reveal cloaked units, including cloaked players like assassins and certain mages, as well as cloaked monsters. While not abundant, there are a fair number of such monsters in New World. Players with good control can utilize the angle and timing of a flashbang to cause a momentary blinding effect on the target. This skill is more PvP-oriented, and its applicability is relatively narrow, so Suemo had never learned it. Now that he was wealthy, spending a dozen gold coins to learn a skill wasn't too extravagant. There was also an explosive arrow, which would create an explosive effect upon hitting a target, dealing splash damage to monsters around the target. This skill was an area of effect skill, but the splash damage was quite poor, so Suemo had never learned it. Now that he was rich, he could learn any skill and keep it. Isn't there a saying, too many skills are never a burden? The third skill book was a melee skill, Trip. This skill could deal damage and control to a close-range target, throwing the opponent to the ground and creating distance while the opponent got back up. It required barehanded operation and a certain level of skill. The specific effect would be judged based on the player's tripping angle and technique. This skill was very important to Sumo because it could even trip a boss. The drawback was that targets could easily develop resistance to it. If the target was a player, they would be immune to being tripped again for the next 2 minutes. Otherwise, if a group of hunters who knew Trip ganged up, any boss or player would be stuck on the ground. These 3 skill books, in fact, couldn't compare to a skill Sumo learned for free from Raglan Kent. Advancement. Besides unlocking the experience bar and giving him 10 points in all attributes, it also made a skill available for him to learn. That was Repelling Arrow. This skill, with a cooldown of only 15 seconds, made the hunter-type profession's kiting style much smoother. As the name suggests, Repelling Arrow can push back a target. The distance of the pushback is related to the levels and attribute templates of both parties. If a level 30 Sumo used this skill on a level 1 mob, the mob, if not instantly killed, would literally fly off into the sky with a bayou sound. If used on a boss of the same level, it would at most cause the boss to step back 2 paces. In other words, Sumo suddenly gained 4 skills. His strength couldn't help but increase. There were other hunter-type skills, but very few skill books appeared on the market, or they were simply not very useful, so he hadn't paid much attention to them. He planned to inquire about skills in the monster chat group later. There was no need to always spend money to buy them. Lai Fu's brothers were simply a natural treasure trove. The largest town in the Marseille's Riverside map was Riverside Town. Riverside Town enjoyed the reputation of being one of the 10 most beautiful sights in the eastern continent, mainly because the water of the Marseille River was exceptionally clear. In reality, aside from some island scenic spots, such clear river water was rarely seen anymore. Only virtual online games could recreate such beautiful scenery. There was still some time before the Tower of the Reaching Heavens refreshed in the afternoon, so he was grinding monsters by the river to level up. Currently, he ranked 4th on the level leaderboard. The other few were all highly reputable experts, while he remained very mysterious. New World was a game that highly valued player privacy. As long as your PK value wasn't high, you didn't even need to leave your name when killing someone, and there was no need to reveal your name for teaming up or anything else. Players could even set aliases for themselves. If one had a good sense of self-protection, it was very possible to play the game for 3 years without anyone knowing your ID. Therefore, almost no one knew who Tai Ma Binghe was. He chose to kill level 35 hippos. These monsters were certainly not as ubiquitous as the wild dogs outside Novice Village. Often, it would take several minutes to find just one. Correspondingly, these monsters gave a very generous amount of experience. Their combat power was also very strong. An untransferred 5-person team might not even be able to defeat a single adult hippo. Players who wanted to farm materials like hippo teeth or hippo thick skin could only avoid adult hippos and look for young ones. Sumo had already transferred professions and had a powerful pet like Lai Fu, so dealing with an adult hippo was not a big problem. He was a lone wolf. Only this way could he match the leveling efficiency of a group of people. Once humans experienced the glory of reaching the summit, they would not willingly descend. He was already ranked 4th on the level leaderboard, and he wondered why he couldn't be 3rd. He even began to subtly regret that if he had sold the transfer quest a little later, his ranking might have been even higher. Unfortunately, after grinding monsters for a long time, he not only failed to become 3rd, but instead dropped to 5th. The ultimate conclusion was that leveling up was truly not something players like him excelled at. Others trained all day long, and some even had a dedicated team to help them lure monsters and feed experience. If there were clues for hidden quests, they would also buy them at a high price. It was estimated that the few people ahead of him were not genuinely leveling up. When the time was almost right, Sumo simply went to an inn to sleep. He would go back and continue the main quest. Surpassing these nobodies would be a matter of minutes. He chose to switch to Lai Fu's perspective to attend the Tower of the Reaching Heavens gathering. This was a feast for monsters, and Lai Fu, as a monster apostle who could act freely, was the main winner of this feast. The Marseille's Riverside map not only included the riverside land, but also aquatic monsters. Therefore, on this day, players witnessed a monster riot. Many fish leaped out of the water, jumped onto land, and advanced by hopping and jumping. Any existence that blocked them was torn to shreds. Fortunately, Riverside Town's defenses were very strong, and the water monsters could not break through. Otherwise, Sumo, this living dead man, would surely have been buried in the belly of a fish. You all say you love me, but you always forget to vote for tickets. For monsters, farming maps in the Tower of the Reaching Heavens was paradise. But for players, there was always a monster riot map every week. And if they couldn't leave the map immediately or find a safe place, their outcome was never very pleasant. If Sumo hadn't been asleep, he would have noticed that his ranking had changed from 5th to 4th. That poor 4th-ranked player encountered a group of piranhas in the monster tide. He and his subordinates were all torn apart and devoured alive by the piranhas, leaving them with psychological trauma and never returning to Marseille's riverside again. Lai Fu galloped through the monster wave, exuding an aura of dominance, and no monster dared to provoke it. In reality, monsters did not fight among themselves, at least during the period the Tower of the Reaching Heavens was refreshed until it disappeared. The monsters were incredibly harmonious. Just like many times before, numerous monsters lay in rows, waiting for the time to come. When the time arrived, all the monsters were sucked into the Tower of the Reaching Heavens. After Lai Fu's vision stabilized, it saw an environment very similar to a plaza, with a pillar in the center on which stood a very peculiar-looking large fish. This large fish had a very long head, a decent body, and a very long tail. But the problem was that its body had 2 arms and 2 legs. The system then reminded the monsters entering the first stage that the last 10 monsters to survive against Salty Fish King Victor would pass. Oh my, I really ran into Salty Fish King Victor. Lai Fu immediately let out a loud howl, then lay down on the ground, first rolling 3 times to the left, then 3 times to the right. 3 rolls left and 3 rolls right was the secret signal the 2 guys had agreed upon. Then Salty Fish King Victor raised his fork, and suddenly the weather changed, with a fine drizzle falling from the sky, directly covering a quarter of the plaza. Only then did Lai Fu realize that this merman boss, who only knew how to spout toxic chicken soup all day, was not just strong, but exceptionally so. It made him wonder how strong Langley Parrot Jamie, whom he feared like a tiger, must be. Victor's rain coverage avoided Lai Fu, and monsters hit by the rain began to show damage numbers. Some weaker monsters were immediately cleared out, and the rest, unable to withstand the damage, tried to escape the rain's range. But the rain's range was under the control of Salty Fish King Victor. Besides rain damage, lightning also accompanied the rain. 1 lightning strike would take away half the HP of a monster it hit. Besides rain damage, it was naturally impossible for monsters to coexist peacefully. The system made it clear that only 10 monsters on site could advance. So, dying under the rain counted as elimination, and being killed by other monsters was naturally also elimination. The monsters who had been getting along peacefully outside the Tower of the Reaching Heavens erupted in a fierce civil war. Lai Fu immediately used a large skill to stun a pile of monsters, then turned and ran while other monsters were ganging up on them. It was just an elite monster, and although its strength was good now, as a smart monster, it knew better than anyone that it needed to conserve its strength at this time. However, while it wanted to conserve its strength, some monsters might not grant its wish. A piranha boss, for some unknown reason, took a liking to it and relentlessly pursued it. You'd think a water boss wouldn't be so arrogant on land. Lai Fu was chased all over the place, and just as it was about to be caught by the piranha boss constantly leaping into the air, a lightning bolt struck down, frying the piranha boss until it was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Monsters struck by lightning would be stunned for at least 10 seconds. During these 10 seconds, other monsters naturally wouldn't miss the opportunity to gang up, and the piranha was quickly eliminated. Lai Fu gave a thumbs up to Salty Fish King on the high platform and no longer rushed to run around. Anyway, with Salty Fish King's lightning escort, it only needed to avoid being ganged up on by other monsters. Soon, there were not many monsters left on the scene. With Lai Fu's powerful strength, well, mainly thanks to Salty Fish King Victor's care, it finally managed to make it to the end. The first round ended, and the second round began. The second round was still in the same place, with Salty Fish King Victor moonlighting as an examiner. The second stage begins. Congratulations, you have all gained the ability to speak and can now converse with me as equals. This was similar to the little squirrel Lai Fu had encountered before. They both found monster apostles to act as examiners. Lai Fu and the other 9 monsters squatted on the ground, waiting for the examiner to give the questions. Count Hanks has 7 sons, and each of these 7 sons has a sister. So, how many children does Count Hanks have in total? Victor unfolded the exam paper with the question written on it. Lai Fu glanced at the other monsters who were still deep in thought, silently mourning for them for 3 seconds. An indescribable sense of superiority was impossible to suppress, and it raised its paw. This distinguished wolf clan brother, please state your answer. 8. 8, are you sure? Sure. Salty Fish King Victor winked and made faces, but Lai Fu ignored him completely. He had no choice but to reluctantly pick up another piece of paper with the answer written on it. In his opinion, Lai Fu had definitely miscalculated this time. 7 sons, and each son has a sister. That would be 7 sisters, so it should obviously be 14 children. Just as he was about to announce the answer was wrong, Salty Fish King Victor's eyes widened, and then his fish face began to flush with shame. He cleared his throat twice before calmly announcing, "This wolf clan brother answered correctly. Everyone else, eliminated." The 9 monsters vanished with a "Bayou, give it here." Salty Fish King extended his paw. Lai Fu handed over an attribute pill, which added 10 to all attributes. This was the reward for him, letting Lai Fu pass the first round. Brother, I'd like to ask something." Salty Fish King Victor actually didn't want to expose his intelligence, but he also didn't want to keep this question bottled up, so he brazenly asked, "Why is it that with 7 sons, and each son having a sister, there are only 8 children?" It's simple. If the first 7 children are boys, and the 8th is a girl, wouldn't that 8th girl be the sister of all the boys? Lai Fu shook its head and sighed, saying in a sympathetic tone, "A salted fish will always have its day to flip, but after flipping, it's still a salted fish." Salty Fish King was extremely embarrassed by the retort and directly summoned a lightning bolt, frying Lai Fu until it was crispy on the outside and tender on the inside. Fortunately, this was no longer a battle, and Lai Fu, apart from its somewhat unconventional appearance, did not suffer any other damage. Third round, I will still be conducting the assessment. You'd best show me some respect. Humph. Salty Fish King Victor glared at Lai Fu warningly, then lowered his voice and said, "In the future, you are not allowed to talk about toxic chicken soup in the group. That's my patent. If you say all the toxic chicken soup, how am I supposed to get by? Simple. Just give me back my attribute pill, and I won't mention the poisonous chicken soup." Lai Fu extended his paw. Salty Fish King Victor didn't hesitate to give up his reward. A 10 attribute pill was nothing to him. They, as members of the high-level monster chat group, received a similar system subsidy every week, and like Lai Fu, they could only use 1 pill a month, so the remaining pills became currency. Compared to the attribute pill, he clearly preferred his poisonous chicken soup. If you need better poisonous chicken soup, you can exchange it for equipment or gold coins. Lai Fu revealed its devilish face, exuding an aura of greed from the abyss. Deal. Just as the mangy yellow lion Ryan loved shiny gold coins, Salty Fish King Victor's eyes seemed to only see chicken soup. Then, let's proceed with the third challenge assessment. You just need to defeat me. Lai Fu immediately wilted. With his strength, he probably couldn't even chip off a single scale from Salty Fish King. That's naturally impossible. Fortunately, Salty Fish King was just joking. He continued, "Now there are 9 lizard eggs. Are they eggs laid by Green Lizard Orlando?" You could say that, although Orlando is a male lizard, and I don't think he can lay eggs. In any case, there are 9 lizard eggs, and you need to put them into 4 bags, ensuring that each bag has lizard eggs, and the number of lizard eggs in each bag is odd. Can you think of a way? Is this question very difficult? Lai Fu asked. Well, it's just SOSO. Salty Fish King Victor wiped away non-existent cold sweat, avoiding Lai Fu's gaze. Honestly, old Tuo, can it be that you don't know the answer? That's no fun. Brother, you're so straightforward, you'll die without understanding why. This question is very simple. Put 1 lizard egg in the first bag, 3 in the second, and 5 in the third. Lai Fu confidently gave the answer. That's not right. There's still 1 bag empty, and you've already used all the lizard eggs. Then put all 3 bags of lizard eggs into the 4th bag. Wouldn't that work? Lai Fu was now certain that this Salty Fish King didn't know the answer either. These monsters responsible for posing questions all received the test questions from the system. Indeed, Salty Fish King looked astonished. So it could be done this way. Without even looking at the answer provided by the system, he knew Su-mo had answered correctly because he had also thought of the same thing. On the second day of the 9th week of the game, Lai Fu successfully passed 3 challenges once again. Salty Fish King Victor left, and a large roulette appeared before Lai Fu, with 9 slots showing 5 prizes and 4 "Thank you for your patronage." The prizes were an experience pill for 5 level ups, an attribute pill for plus 15 to all attributes, promotion qualification, a random skill, and a tribute template upgrade. This time, rare items like Wild Heart didn't appear, but Lai Fu saw the hope of upgrading from an elite to a boss, which made him very excited. Having passed the first challenge today, he had already received a random skill. The second challenge earned him an experience pill for 5 level ups, and he was just waiting to draw the attribute template upgrade in the third challenge. It's estimated that no other monster or monster apostle could match his leveling speed. After all, most monster apostles couldn't enter the Tower of the Reaching Heavens almost every session like him. And even if they could enter the Tower of the Reaching Heavens, who could defy all odds and pass all 3 challenges every time? In fact, Lai Fu hadn't yet realized that the challenges he faced had already escalated. If they hadn't reached an agreement in private, he should have failed in the first challenge. Becoming one of the last 10 survivors among so many monsters, he, an elite monster, had no chance of achieving it. For example, that piranha boss was his destined tribulation. The system had clearly given him a taunt tag, and several waves of monsters wanted to eliminate him because of this taunt. It was Salty Fish King Victor who changed his fate against all odds. The pointer of fate slowed from fast to slow and finally came to a standstill. Lai Fu watched in despair as it landed on, "Thank you for your patronage." From a probabilistic point of view, this was actually a very normal occurrence. With 9 slots and 4 blanks, a 4/9 chance of getting nothing, he was bound to lose on the roulette eventually. But Lai Fu refused to accept such a wolf's life. After being teleported out, he lay on his back in the wetlands by the river, not even wanting to check what new skill he had gained. Finally, the constant S in the chat group attracted his attention. "Iron-winged Eagle Snow, Lai Fu, come out. You have the guts to challenge. Why don't you come out? If you're so capable, come out. Quickly tell us what your reward for the third challenge was." Ferocious Wild Wolf Lai Fu. "Nothing. I drew a blank." One-legged King Allen. "I suddenly feel a lot more balanced. I've been feeling down all this time." Gray-headed Wolf King Piss. Lai Fu has passed 3 challenges in a row more than once. What do you have to be balanced about? He went from a common monster to what he is now. Salty Fish King Victor. You try your best, and it's still not as good as someone doing it casually. Langley Parrot Jamie. Sigh. I failed the second challenge. The question was really too difficult. Iron-winged Eagle Snow. Heaven envies talent. What was the question for the second challenge? Tell us so we can help you think about it. Langley Parrot Jamie. How would an ant die if it fell from a mountain several million meters high? One-legged King Allen. Oh my, several million meters. It must have died from the fall. Langley Parrot Jamie. That's what I thought too. Iron-winged Eagle Snow. Why did you fail then? What did the answer say? Langley Parrot Jamie. Lai Fu. Everyone says you're smart. How do you think the ant died? Ferocious Wild Wolf Lai Fu. Starved to death. Actually, it might have also been scared to death. Silver-horned Giant Deer Yuzi _ Just then, Lai Fu received a system notification. Poisonous Toad Oreo hopes you will be an external helper for the third challenge's questions. Do you accept? He didn't expect the Tower of the Reaching Heavens to still be open, and someone was still dawdling. Since it was a monster apostle, Lai Fu naturally wouldn't refuse. After saying goodbye to the people here, he was once again teleported into the Tower of the Reaching Heavens. Poisonous Toad sounded terrifying, but he actually looked cuter than Salty Fish King. He was currently foaming at the mouth in front of the examiner. What happened? Lai Fu asked in surprise. The question was too difficult. He got anxious and bit his own tongue, then poisoned himself. The examiner quickly distanced itself, thinking that its group might be the last one still dawdling in the Tower of the Reaching Heavens. Is he okay? Lai Fu was quite worried about Oreo. He should be fine. Although his venom is very potent, it's his own venom after all, and his body has good resistance to it, the examiner said, not entirely sure. Lai Fu took the problem from the examiner and found it to be surprisingly simple. A fox bought an 80 silver coin leather coat from an old goat's shop with a fake gold coin, and the old goat even gave the fox 20 silver coins in change. How much money did the old goat lose in total? He almost bit off his own tongue and poisoned himself over this problem. Lai Fu felt that this toad was truly foolish to the extreme. However, to encounter the Tower of the Reaching Heavens just a few days after advancing, his luck was at least not bad. Lai Fu gave the answer. I won't tell you what the answer is. And poisonous toad Oreo got a chance to draw a prize. As an external aid for the poisonous toad, Lai Fu also had one chance to spin the wheel. The poisonous toad's prize wheel also had 9 slots for blank and 5 items. Among the 5 items were an experience pill that instantly raised 1-5 levels, a random skill, a promotion qualification, a shadow summoning scroll, and finally, a 10 attribute pill. Lai Fu waited a few minutes until the poison on Oreo's body faded and he regained his senses. Thank you so much, Big Brother Lai Fu. This problem was really too difficult. I almost died of anxiety and accidentally bit my tongue. Fortunately, at the critical moment, I remembered I could ask for external help. You are much smarter. You could even figure out such a difficult problem. All right, the problem was indeed quite difficult, Lai Fu said against his will. Big Brother Lai Fu, why don't you go first? Activating the turntable for the first time, Poisonous Toad Oreo was a little excited. It doesn't matter. You go first. We'll talk after the result comes out. Lai Fu had just spun a blank and suddenly felt a sense of dread towards the turntable. After the two monsters pushed and yielded to each other for a bit, Poisonous Toad Oreo finally gritted his teeth and activated the turntable. Both pairs of eyes stared intently at the pointer, so much so that their heads started to spin. Finally, they saw the pointer stop in one slot. It was actually a shadow summoning scroll. What kind of luck was this? Lai Fu was even a little jealous. This toad had only advanced a few days ago, and the Tower of the Reaching Heavens appeared right at his doorstep. He inexplicably made it to the 3rd stage, couldn't answer the 3rd stage, randomly selected an external aid, and it turned out to be him. On his first spin of the wheel, he got the rarest reward. He didn't know what the shadow summoning scroll was, but it was undoubtedly a relatively rare item, similar to the wild heart Lai Fu had obtained before. At least, he had spun the wheel several times, and this was the first time he had seen a shadow summoning scroll. Poisonous Toad Oreo obviously hadn't realized this yet. He timidly glanced at Lai Fu, indicating that it was his turn. Big Brother. Lai Fu sighed inwardly, slapped the activation button hard, and then closed his eyes, waiting for the final result to appear. Big Brother Lai Fu, you drew a promotion qualification. Oh my goodness, you're amazing. Oreo's voice rang in his ears. Lai Fu opened his eyes and saw that the result was already out. This time, he finally hit the jackpot and drew a promotion qualification. Drawing something at level 30 that could only be used at level 50, Lai Fu didn't think it was very useful. But in the eyes of a monster like Oreo, this item was more precious than anything else. You want it? Lai Fu dangled the promotion qualification in his hand. Yes. Poisonous Toad Oreo nodded like a pounding garlic, unable to control his drool. His saliva dripped onto the floor, making sizzling sounds, looking indeed extremely poisonous. Sigh, since you want it, let's trade then, Lai Fu said with a pained expression. Then Oreo happily exchanged the shadow summoning scroll with Lai Fu and kept thanking him repeatedly, as if afraid that saying one less word wouldn't express his gratitude. Lai Fu looked at the shadow summoning scroll and found that this item was indeed not as good as the Wild Heart. Its effect was to summon a doppelganger to assist in battle. The doppelganger possessed the exact same attributes and combat abilities as the main body, and it lasted for the duration of one battle. That is to say, if a boss used this scroll, then 2 identical bosses would appear. Under normal circumstances, an average team facing 2 bosses would usually result in disaster, with casualties being inevitable, and a team wiped not out of the question. Fortunately, this scroll could only be used once and only lasted for the duration of one battle, so it wasn't an overpowered item. If Lai Fu, or rather, Su-Mo, possessed it, he could bring 2 identical pets into battle. The burst of combat power in a short period would definitely be considered abnormal. Poisonous Toad Oreo. Thank you, Big Brother Lai Fu. Words cannot express my gratitude. From now on, whatever Big Brother Lai Fu needs, just say the word, and I'll go through fire and water. Mountain Dog Leader Kato. Toad Spirit. Don't just randomly claim a big brother. This is my big brother. Poisonous Toad Oreo. My apologies, my apologies. I was a bit too excited. Tiger King Angus. What happened? I took a nap. And how did the world become like this? Poisonous Toad Oreo. Today, I entered the Tower of the Reaching Heavens. The problems were too difficult. Thanks to Big Brother Lai Fu as an external aid, I passed all 3 stages. During the spinning wheel, Big Brother Lai Fu spun a promotion qualification and directly gave it to me. Tiger King Angus. Little Toad, you already got a promotion qualification? Poisonous Toad Oreo. I'm still 5 levels away from promotion. It feels like a dream to me. Tiger King Angus. It infuriates me. Poisonous Toad Oreo. Big Brother Tiger, you are? Wild Boar Leader Sam. He's been level 30 for a long time, but unfortunately, he hasn't been able to advance. And you're probably the fastest advancing apostle among us. Mountain Dog Leader Kato. Boss Lai Fu advanced. Boss Piss advanced. The Lion Spirit also advanced. I haven't seen Sloth King Foals recently, so he probably advanced too. You can imagine how depressed he must be. Wild Boar Leader Sam. Ergo, it seems only the 3 of us are left who like to chat in the group. Everyone else in this group is a perennial lurker. They don't come out unless at D. Mountain Dog Leader Kato. Pai Pai Zhu. Aren't you already level 30? You just need a promotion qualification, and you can advance. Poisonous Toad Oreo. How about I give this promotion qualification here to Big Brother Tiger? I'm not even 30 yet. I'll have plenty of opportunities in the future. Wild Boar Leader Sam. Holy cow. Toad Spirit, are you serious? Poisonous Toad Oreo. If it were before, I might not have been able to be this noble. But today, after being enlightened by Big Brother Lai Fu from beginning to end, I realized that advancing isn't important anymore. I also want to be a loyal monster like Big Brother Lai Fu. Tiger King Angus. No. How can I accept your promotion qualification? Wild Boar Leader Sam. Boss Lai Fu is indeed very great. Although Piss is strong, I only respect Boss Lai Fu now. No matter what the matter, as long as you ask him, he will come to help, no matter how busy he is. Poisonous Toad Oreo at Ferocious Wild Wolf Lai Fu. Boss Lai Fu. Please bring the promotion qualification to Big Brother Tiger. At this time, Lai Fu had not yet left Marseille's riverside, so this request did not mean a burden for him. Soon, Lai Fu obtained the scroll representing the promotion qualification. As a monster apostle who had always followed the footsteps of the Tower of the Reaching Heavens, Lai Fu could feel more than anyone else that the Tower of the Reaching Heavens was also undergoing changes. For example, a 5-level increase used to be a direct increase, and those like Lai Fu who couldn't increase were out of luck. Now, it had become an experience pellet that could instantly increase 5 levels. There were also promotion qualifications. Lai Fu had also obtained promotion qualifications before, but he didn't even know what a promotion qualification looked like. Now, the promotion qualification had also become a scroll. It seemed the game system did not want monsters to be limited to just chatting. It made sense. If monsters gained intelligence, they would form a social group, and then the exchange of needs would become a matter of course. After several stops, Lai Fu finally appeared before Tiger King Angus. This once high-spirited forest Tiger King now looked a bit dejected. He looked at the promotion qualification in Lai Fu's hand. His eyes filled with both urgency and resistance. In fact, he also hoped to advance through his own battles, like gray-headed Wolf King Piss. Unfortunately, he didn't seem to have that talent, and his strength wasn't quite enough, so he had been dragging it out. Moreover, the Tower of the Reaching Heavens stubbornly refused to refresh on his side, completely blocking his path to promotion. Now a promotion opportunity was placed before him. Boss Lai Fu, do you think I should take it or not? Angus was so conflicted he wanted to roll on the ground. When you ask this question, you have already stated the answer in your heart. If you could resolutely refuse, you wouldn't ask this way, Lai Fu said. He was like a wise elder, seeing through the essence of the Tsundere Tiger at a glance. Alas, being taken care of by a newcomer who just joined the group, it really doesn't feel good. Tiger King Angus was very frustrated, so much so that the upcoming promotion didn't even excite him. Do you have any attribute pellets? Give him some as compensation, or repay him when you have the chance later. Lai Fu could only say. Tiger King Angus took out an all-attribute plus 15 pellet and still asked Lai Fu to hand it over. In consideration of his newly offered tiger skin skirt, Lai Fu didn't mind them treating him as an errand boy. After finishing everything, Lai Fu finally had time to check his newly acquired skills. After 6 skills, Claw Strike, level 4, Thick Skin, level 3, Sweep, level 2, Rupture, level 1, Frenzy, level 1, and Sardra's Lightning Field Weakened/Mutilated version, level 1. A new skill appeared. This made Lai Fu a top-tier pet with 7 skills. He was not much worse than Xiaoqiu. Xiaoqiu's skills were Tenacity, level 3, Evil Dragon Roar, level 2, Azure Dragon Bodyguard, level 2, Leg Grab Kill, level 1, Thunder Strike, level 1, Break the Cauldrons and Sink the Boats, level 1, and Moification Sickness, level 1. Lai Fu's 7th skill was not very powerful, but a very practical pet skill. Charge. Charge, level 1, active, 30-second cooldown. Charges towards an enemy target within 30 yards, causing a 0.5-second immobilization effect, and makes the next attack deal an additional 20% damage. This skill was very common. Many pets had it. But Lai Fu felt this skill was perfect, so much so that he felt it was the best skill he could get. Wild wolf monsters were pets that even hunter players disliked. If it weren't for them being everywhere in Novice Village, and there being nothing better, Suemo might not have even caught one. He had also decided to use it for now and abandon it for a better one later. Besides its inferior stats compared to other pets, another reason was the lack of mobility skills. No acceleration, no charge. Now, with charge in hand, the silly wild wolf ushered in his spring. Charge was the best opening move for many pets, closing the distance with the enemy in the first instance and causing a brief immobilization effect. Although it was only 0.5 seconds now, it would definitely be longer once the level increased. The 5-level experience pellet was almost useless. However, Suemo was already planning to catch another pet. He lacked a magic pet, one that primarily dealt magic damage, which would make up for his lack of magic damage. New World was a comprehensive game, but it was ultimately more fantasy-oriented. Magic was the mainstream of this world. Technology had not yet caught up with magic, so magic was more likely to deal damage in combat. This could be seen from Lai Fu's small lightning bolt. Unfortunately, Lai Fu was ultimately a flat-chested child. His magic power was not even enough to unleash the power of the small lightning bolt, and he would be out of commission for a long time after using the skill. A true magic pet was put on the agenda. Switching perspectives, Suemo put all the attribute pellets and shadow summoning scrolls Lai Fu earned into his backpack. He'd keep them for Lai Fu for now and return them when Lai Fu grew up. Then Suemo summoned Xiaoqiu. He stuffed a plus 15 all-attribute pellet into the panda's mouth. At first, Xiaoqiu probably thought Suemo wanted to poison him and struggled desperately. After eating the pellet, he smacked his lips and started pestering Suemo for more. It truly made Suemo's little panda cry with envy. And Suemo was surprised to find that Xiaoqiu's attribute pellet cooldown was not a month like Lai Fu's, but half a month. This meant that Xiaoqiu could eat 2 pellets in the same period that Lai Fu ate 1. Was this the digestive system of a divine beast? Suemo entrusted Gaara to help him with pet slots and taming scrolls, while he himself planned to take Xiaoqiu to Xiaoqiu's old home, Twilight Forest. He had brought many things for the old vampire and had agreed to deliver them to him today. These supplies were not bought by him. They were all directly sent to his mailbox by Gaara. Otherwise, to buy these dozen or so fine wines, Suemo would have to run to several cities, and the teleportation fees alone would cost more than 10 gold coins. But if entrusted to Gaara, he only needed to pay a few gold coins in commission, and they would send it to his mailbox in minutes. 2 of these fine wines were not even something that could be bought immediately with money. Gaara was not alone. He had at least one team, and now, as his business grew, the number of people in this team was constantly increasing. Small matters like queuing to buy wine. Hey, that guy get it done. High-end players, except for girls who like to shop. Not many people actually like to shop. Even in a small town like Harkins, there were an average of 100 or 200 stalls at any given time. Looking through them all would waste so much time. Suemo had just finished getting his things and said he was about to leave. Then he heard a soft ding. It turned out that the pet slots and taming scrolls he wanted had arrived. From the time he sent the message to Gaara until it was mailed to him, less than 3 minutes had passed. However, along with the pet slots and 2 taming scrolls, there was also a list. It listed some materials with clearly marked prices. This was a request Gaara sent to his connections. He was a middleman, specializing in earning the difference, and while satisfying clients, he would also casually mention his own needs. Suemo looked through them, intending to pick a few with high rewards and ask for help in the monster chat group. As the game's open time grew longer, the monster apostles, while killing players, would also level up and drop items by farming monsters in their respective maps. They all had some inventory, and instead of letting it go to waste, it was better to give it to Lai Fu. After getting ready, Suemo set off for the Twilight Forest. Not long after entering, he found that all the monsters had disappeared. Without a doubt, he looked up and indeed saw a giant eyeball. Aunt Qinglong, do you have to be so active? The panda family has already forgiven me. Why are you still trying to catch me? Qinglong ignored him, grabbed him, and flew into the sky. Can you please not grab one leg and hang me upside down? Don't I have any dignity? Don't I have a shield? Can you give me a shield? I am Chio's master. Believe it or not, I'll abuse your panda baby. The flying speed was very fast, the wind was very cold, and Sumo's head hurt terribly. His equipment durability had dropped by quite a few points. Even killing his way through would be more comfortable than this. Wait a moment, Great Qinglong, please stop. Upon arriving at Panda Paradise, Suemo quickly called out to the Great Qinglong that had just thrown him to the ground and was about to fly away. He had always been unsure if Qinglong could understand him, but now he finally had a glimmer of certainty. Because Qinglong actually didn't fly away immediately, but stopped and looked at Suemo, seemingly waiting for Suemo to say what he wanted. I know what you mean. You just want to reunite with Chio. Don't lock me in a cage. I'll let Chio out to accompany you. Can you take me to this place? I'll thank your ancestors for 8 generations. Suemo summoned Chio while pulling out a map, pointing out a location near Phantom Gorge for Qinglong to see. Unexpectedly, after Chio came out, it didn't go to its family to be affectionate. It just clung to Sumo's leg and wouldn't let go. Cold sweat broke out on Sumo's forehead. This scene easily made people suspect that he had mistreated his pet, possibly even to the point of not getting enough to eat. 3 large pandas looked at him coldly, and several small pandas bared their teeth at him. Their youngest had been taken away and was actually abused. They must find a way to brand this human. Suemo, enduring the pain, took out a full attribute plus 5 attribute pill and stuffed it into Chio's mouth. Chio ate it contentedly. After finishing, it was still not satisfied and reached out to Suemo. Suemo was almost driven crazy by this bear child. In the end, he could only appease this rogue with another full attribute plus 5 pill. Panda Chio didn't eat the pill immediately after getting it. Instead, it took the pill and gave it to one of the smaller pandas that looked relatively frail. This scene greatly surprised Suemo, because at this moment, Panda Chio displayed an intelligence beyond just acting cute. It actually knew to take care of the weaker members of its group. Chio was definitely not a monster apostle. There was no doubt about that. He wasn't sure if the large pandas were, and he didn't dare to switch to Lai Fu to test them, as Lai Fu had always claimed to be an NPC's pet. Now, he saw the potential for Chio to become a monster apostle. This budding intelligence was so obvious, and he didn't know when it started. It seemed that not long ago, this little thing only knew how to instinctively act cute. Sumo's feelings were complicated. He was somewhat relieved and wanted to see what Panda Chio would become like with intelligence and what surprises it would bring him. But he was also a little scared, because he didn't know how to face a monster apostle as his pet. Lai Fu didn't count. Rather than saying Lai Fu was a monster apostle, it was more accurate to say Suemo became a monster apostle in Lai Fu's identity. It seemed that he would have to educate Chio well in the future and brainwash it. Who is the greatest person in this world? Suemo. It must be my master, Suemo, whose interests are inviolable. Suemo. It must be my master, Suemo, whose orders should I follow in the future? Suemo. It must be my master, Suemo. Leaving Chio in Panda Paradise to play with its family, Suemo was grabbed by Qinglong and flew towards Phantom Gorge. This was what Suemo asked Qinglong to do. If he had to go alone and was not allowed to summon pets, he would probably be unable to move an inch in the forest. And letting him stay in a cage and wait for Chio to finish doting on its family before leaving would be too much of a waste of time. So the best outcome was for Chio to stay there with its family, while Suemo went to do his mission. Qinglong also seemed to know about this strange valley, dropping Suemo at the valley entrance and then leaving. Suemo once again entered this dim valley, cautiously walking deeper. Now that he no longer had his powerful support, he could only grope his way in little by little. Fortunately, this game was very realistic, even in the habits of some monsters. Suemo judged the distribution of monsters by the traces on the ground. After more than 10 minutes, Suemo finally reached the depths of the gorge and then saw the oak trees with grotesque nodes he remembered. He had come in a hurry last time, so Suemo hadn't observed carefully. Now it seemed that many tombstones were hidden among the hillside bushes, and he didn't know who they belonged to. Or perhaps the old vampire, now alone, once had his own clan? The vampire's wooden house was in the middle of this graveyard, appearing particularly eerie and cold. I seem to have seen Xinglong. Is it hunting you? The voice suddenly rang out, and Suemo only then realized that the old vampire was leaning against the wall of the wooden house. His clothes were dusty and almost the same color as the wall, and his face seemed to be shrouded in shadow. So Suemo hadn't noticed him. If it were hunting me, I don't think I would have escaped its pursuit. Perhaps it was just passing by, Suemo said. He didn't falsely claim that Xinglong was his means of transport, like a grocery cart. That would be overdoing it, and could easily make the old vampire wary of his background. The old vampire clearly didn't believe that Xinglong was hunting Suemo, nor would he think that Xinglong was Sumo's mount. So he easily accepted the explanation of passing by. Come in, it's cold outside. As one gets older, this kind of cold is what I fear most. The old vampire slowly walked back to the doorway, leaning on the wall, and entered the house. Suemo had to bend down to enter the door. Once inside, he found that the small room was filled with bottles and jars everywhere, with hardly any space for him to step. The old vampire apparently had no intention of tidying up for a guest, letting Suemo find a place to stand. I brought what you wanted, Suemo said. The old vampire waved his hand, and some of the bottles and jars on the ground were finally cleared away. He was making space for the things Suemo had brought. What an impolite fellow, Suemo grumbled inwardly, but showed no outward reaction. Suemo continued to take out items, one after another. Even the old vampire, despite his extensive knowledge, was visibly moved. He had provided a list, but he hadn't actually expected Suemo to fulfill it 100%. From the perspective of a quest, he hadn't even issued one. Yet, Suemo not only brought the squid ink he wanted and some fine wines he needed, but also extra useful supplies he thought would be beneficial. At the very least, these would significantly improve the old vampire's quality of life. Vampires are creatures who enjoy luxury. Recalling their glorious past, they lived in magnificent castles, rode in exquisite and comfortable carriages, and savored fine wines from all over the world. Unless absolutely forced, no one would willingly live in such a gloomy wooden hut, eating bitter wild fruits. What do you want? The old vampire quickly calmed down. Although he lived in extreme scarcity here, he remained sufficiently wary of Suemo, who was being overly solicitous. I don't really know what I want, nor do I know what you can give me. I just don't want to see a once glorious being barely clinging to life amidst a cluster of tombstones, Suemo said sincerely, his eyes full of genuine emotion. It was admiration, completely unrelated to pity. The old vampire fell silent. He sighed and said, "What glory is there left? Here, there is only an old man waiting for death. Can you tell me stories from your youth? Consider it my reward." Suemo pressed on, hoping he might hear a complete history of vampires from the old vampire's mouth. However, the old vampire refused him. For a vampire, time is a long and trivial matter. I don't wish to reminisce. Ask for something else, young man. It was then that Suemo remembered that vampires were at least several centuries old, many perhaps even millennium-old beings. Though the old vampire already had one foot in the grave, barring any accidents, living for another few centuries would be no problem at all. Therefore, they didn't lament the passage of time like humans did. I have a badge here. It's said to grow stronger after absorbing the powerful blood of the vampire race. What do you think? Suemo took out his vampire badge. Although it was already top tier, who would ever complain about it being too good? It seems you truly have a connection with the vampire race. Wait, this is a Tesla family badge, but it also carries the aura of the Belmont family. Aren't you a blood slave of the House of Kainstein? A small badge completely overturned the old vampire's understanding. The poor old vampire couldn't even begin to imagine the story behind it. He feared Suemo's "I don't care about anything" attitude. As long as Suemo had the curiosity of an intelligent being, he wasn't afraid of finding his weaknesses. What does blood slave mean? Suemo asked curiously. It's a mortal who is subservient to a vampire. If they perform meritorious deeds in the future, they might even receive the reward of the first embrace, the old vampire explained. Oh, I see. Count Dracula, the one from the Belmont family you just mentioned, has already promised me the first embrace in the future. So, I don't have any particular designs on you. At least in human society, I still lean towards vampires. Humph, the first embrace. Then you must not know the consequences of the first embrace, the old vampire sneered. Will it cause Count Dracula's strength to decline? Suemo was actually very curious about what the first embrace meant in this game. He had also looked up some information in reality, seeing descriptions of vampires in some historical legends. In his short life of over 20 years, he had never researched such fantastical things. A temporary decline in strength is just that, temporary. But you will always be his slave, forever bound to obey his commands, the old vampire said. Suemo was startled. He really hadn't known about this. If it were true, wouldn't he be controlled by an NPC? That was too much of a scam. He was a player. Being controlled by an NPC was absurd. What if he dies? Suemo quickly thought of another possibility. These types of NPCs were different from the bosses in the wilderness that respawned daily, unless there was a very special storyline. If they died, they were truly dead. Haha. It seems you're not such an honest fellow after all. The old vampire saw through Suemo's ruthlessness and shook his head, saying, "Vampires are difficult to kill. How easy do you think it is to kill a vampire? Moreover, the one who gives you the first embrace will instantly know if you harbor any thoughts of harming him." Dracula. Suemo gritted his teeth slightly. Don't be angry, kid. Strength is truly the deciding factor in everything. However, you are indeed entangled with too many vampires. Why don't you tell me about the living conditions of those vampires outside? Isn't it because vampires are being hunted outside that you fled here, senior? Suemo was surprised. You're asking me about your own race's living conditions? I had already hidden here before that. I was struck by Charles III Judgment Day and had no choice but to hide here to recuperate. The old vampire showed no sign of embarrassment. To escape from the Pope's grasp was something anyone could be proud of. Heavens, that must have been over 200 years ago. Charles III is said to have died 200 years ago. Charles IV died at the hands of the Pirate King, and the current Pope is Charles V. His strength is even greater than his predecessors, Suemo said. After accepting the main quest, he had specifically researched the game's world background. He could also find this commonly known information from some NPCs and documents within the game. Pope is a title. Every pope is called the Pope. So, rather than saying he is a strong individual, it's more accurate to say he represents a faction. However, Charles V was indeed very powerful. Under his leadership, the current Holy See had once again recovered its former glory. At the very least, the Pirate King, who had once killed Charles IV, was now being suppressed by Charles V. Only a few top powerhouses on the continent could make Charles V wary. So much time has passed. But, since Charles III is already dead, why hasn't the holy light energy within me dissipated? The old vampire was extremely agitated. I apologize, my knowledge is shallow, and I don't know why, Suemo said, unable to help. So Charles III is already dead? So many years. The old vampire was filled with emotion, his eyes sparkling with brilliance. Child, tell me about the situation on the continent. I think we might have an opportunity for more cooperation. The previously lifeless old vampire seemed to have regained his will to live due to the demise of his powerful enemy. I am very happy to cooperate with you, my friend. Suemo was overjoyed. The old vampire's reaction was normal, and he could guess the reason for this change. The old fellow, who had been lingering on, knew that his lifelong enemy was dead, and he now had hope for a cure. For a vampire, life is truly a very long affair, and naturally, he was unwilling to stay in this graveyard, living a meager existence. Bring the badge, consider it an advance payment, and a symbol of my sincerity. The old vampire reached out for Suemo's vampire badge and, without hesitation, used a knife to cut off his pinky finger. Does he have to be so ruthless? The badge happily absorbed the nourishment from the bloodline. It originally belonged to the Tesla family, which Suemo obtained from Huolingxi Wu's hidden quest. Later, it absorbed Dracula's blood essence, thus carrying the aura of the Belmont family. Now, the last bloodline of the House Mycarvian also added to the badge with his blood purification. Perhaps truly wanting to win over Suemo, the old vampire, Mikalian, whose surname Suemo had already learned from Taylor Mel, waited until the badge stopped absorbing before stopping. The bone and flesh at the incision rapidly grew, and soon a new finger appeared. After the finger grew back, Mikalian picked up the severed finger from the ground and carefully placed it into a container. From the looks of it, it could even be used as experimental material. I am an alchemist and also an illusionist. From the perspective of the continent's professional classifications, I can also be considered a sorcerer. Mikalian's attitude was excellent. He even took the initiative to explain his doubts to Sumo. What a great profession. When it's time to flatter, don't hold back. As for what made an alchemist or illusionist great, who the heck knew? Look at your badge, are you satisfied? Sumo evidently hadn't flattered him enough, as Michaelian clearly hoped Sumo would praise him for imbuing the badge with even greater attributes. After being upgraded by Count Dracula, the vampire badge had transformed from gold equipment to dark gold equipment. Vampire badge, dark gold, all attributes plus 10, dodge plus 15, attack speed plus 5%, special effect. Your attacks have a certain chance to gain a lifesteal effect. Equipment level requirement, 30. Durability, 49/55. After being upgraded by the old vampire, although the dark gold equipment did not increase in tier, its attributes became richer. Vampire badge, dark gold, all attributes plus 12, dodge plus 15, attack speed plus 5%, special effect 1. Phantom clone, after use, transforms into 2 clones, possessing 20% of the main body's damage and defense, lasting for 30 seconds. Special effect 2. Your attacks have a certain chance to gain a lifesteal effect. Equipment level requirement, 30. Durability, 60/60ths. Broadly speaking, it just gained an additional special effect. A very practical special effect that not only increases combat power, but also, when surrounded, these 2 clones can confuse opponents, making it unclear which one is real. Many times, just a momentary confusion can lead to many different outcomes. This, Sumo exclaimed, his face filled with shock. It's simply perfect. How did you do it? Michaelian smiled reservedly, offering no further explanation. After a while of flattery, Sumo began to explain the current situation on the continent. Upon learning that Charles V was even more powerful, the old vampire decisively abandoned the idea of venturing out. Who knew if Charles III had left any last words back then? It would be too awkward to get killed as soon as he went out. Moreover, the many powerhouses on the eastern continent also poured a bucket of cold water on the old vampire. It wasn't that after Charles III died, he could go out and rampage. In fact, the current living environment for vampires would only be more difficult than in his rampant era. Please don't worry. The future of vampires will only get better and better. Although I don't know what Count Dracula is plotting, I can feel that his scheme is certainly not small. Sumo, seeing that the old vampire was about to lose courage again, quickly encouraged him. Humph, the Belmont family are all ambitious schemers. Be careful not to be tricked to your death by them. Although the old vampire said this, he was actually quite expectant in his heart. Aunt Mel has also contacted Dracula. I am currently serving as Dracula's messenger. Not long ago, I helped him deliver 4 letters, all to well-hidden vampires. Sumo was very frank. He probably had this ability to make every vampire feel that this child is my person. Count Dracula undoubtedly regarded Sumo as his blood slave, and a future embrace would make it even more foolproof. And Mel Kingston was so comfortable being called Aunt Mel by Sumo that she almost started to wonder if she had a nephew or niece wandering out there. Now, the old vampire also had this illusion. Sumo was his spokesperson, running errands for him while he recovered. In that case, please help me meet with that descendant of the Belmont family and tell him that the House Mycarvian wishes to cooperate with him. The old vampire had clearly sided with his own kind. In fact, most intelligent beings are like this. When it comes to the survival of their species, they can almost all abandon selfish interests and unite. It's just hard to say what happens after the dust settles. This is probably also a manifestation of being able to share adversity, but not prosperity. The system prompted Sumo that he had completed the quest Michaelian. From the sudden 14% experience he gained, it was clear that this belonged to the scope of a main quest. So it turns out it could be like this. Finding a vampire to join Count Dracula's faction also counted as completing a portion of the main quest. Taima being he, who had originally fallen to 6th place on the level leaderboard, instantly shot up to 1st. That's right, 1st place. Almost everyone had only successfully changed professions today. The top 10 fastest to change professions all received a 10% experience bonus. Regardless of how they leveled up, the difference in everyone's experience wasn't significant. Sumo suddenly pulled ahead by 14% experience, and no one could accumulate that much experience in such a short time. In fact, he was a full 11% experience ahead of the 2nd place player. Taima being he is awesome. Everyone could only express such admiration. though they had no idea who Tai Ma Bing he was. Even so, Suemo was still not satisfied with his gains. Greed had clouded his conscience. Please rest assured, I will definitely convey the message. However, please allow me to be selfish for a moment, Mr. Mikalian. What benefit can I gain from this? You just said that the embrace is actually fraught with endless dangers. So, how can I obtain everything I deserve in this tide? No one likes to be controlled by others, not even by NPCs. Suemo actually knew that it wasn't that vampires were easily fooled, but rather that their situation was dire. They had almost no one to use, so they had to make do with someone like Suemo. Actually, it's quite simple. Your Aunt Mel is doing just that. Her way of gaining power is through inheritance, Mikalian said with a hint of mockery. I really don't understand who gave her the courage to actually want my inheritance. Is there anything wrong with that? Suemo actually wanted the old vampire's inheritance too. A ranger who could use illusions. How dashing and powerful would that be? What's wrong with it? Only dead vampires leave behind inheritance stones. She's asking for my life. Don't think for a moment that a weak woman like her is harmless. The cruelty and greed of vampires know no gender. A long time had passed, but the old vampire was still furious recalling it. That's truly outrageous. Heavens, Mel, Suemo also feigned indignation. All right, let's not mention her. Just listen to me. In the future, just don't get too close to her. Old man Mikalian was very pleased with Suemo's performance. Then, how does one obtain an inheritance stone? I truly dislike killing, and powerful existences are not something a small fry like me can challenge. Senior Mikalian, with your vast experience, you must have a way. Suemo looked at the old vampire with wide, expectant, and worshipful eyes. Of course, the old vampire hadn't been flattered so comfortably in hundreds of years. His head spinning, he said, innumerable vampires have been swallowed by the rolling river of time, and most of the powerful ones among them have left behind inheritance stones. Then, where can I find them? Suemo asked. Some places inheritances might have already dissipated, while others should still be there. However, with your current strength, I think it would be very difficult for you to obtain the inheritances in those places. How about you tell me an easier one to get, and I'll go try? Suemo was still unwilling to give up. He had a premonition that the next version of the new world would definitely be related to vampires. And as someone currently undertaking a main quest, how could he seize his own benefits amidst such a tide? It's not impossible to tell you, but I hope you can do some things for me. The old vampire, at least, hadn't been completely fooled out of his senses. I will not disappoint you. Suemo thumped his chest. This soul stone is a treasure for illusionists. I haven't fed it human souls in many years. Animal souls are not perfect, and the forest is the territory of the Azure Dragon. Therefore, I need you to use it to help me collect souls. Master, this doesn't sound like something good people do. Suemo was speechless. Although he could be unscrupulous at times, he had no anti-human tendencies. In fact, there were many times he had fought valiantly for his compatriots. Are you stupid? It's wrong to kill good people to collect souls, but I didn't tell you to slaughter commoners. Even in my youth, I never killed a single commoner. The old vampire's eyes flickered. Suemo didn't believe him. If vampires were truly so benevolent, they wouldn't have been opposed by all races on the continent, ultimately leading to their near extinction. However, the old vampire wasn't wrong. He truly didn't have to indiscriminately kill innocents for this evil soul stone. At least players could respawn indefinitely, and there were countless red-named players on the Mercenary Hall's bounty board waiting for him to eliminate evil and bring peace. I can complete your task, esteemed elder. I eagerly await your return, child. This world will eventually belong to you young people. The old vampire hypocritically encouraged Suemo, completely unaware that Suemo was actually assessing his strength, estimating at what level he could kill this old vampire to obtain his inheritance stone. To Suemo's surprise, the soul stone was not merely a quest item. Soul stone, special intelligence +1, constitution +2. Special effect, killing spree. Harvesting life can make it more powerful. Equipment requirement level 30. Durability 1370 seconds. Suemo tried equipping it and found that it could be equipped in any accessory slot. When equipped in a ring slot, the soul stone transformed into a ring, or rather, it extended a ring and then itself became a gem embedded in it. This thing is really good, Suemo thought to himself, scheming. It seems I really have to take down this old guy. Then not only will I have the inheritance gem, but I won't have to return this equipment either. After finishing his interaction with the old vampire, Suemo walked out of the small wooden house. After confirming Sumo's departure, the old vampire immediately dropped his sanctimonious facade, quickly grabbed a roasted chicken from the ground, tore off a drumstick, opened a bottle of red wine, and began to eat and drink with abandon. As he ate, he wept and cursed profusely. He cursed Charles III, that damned fellow, for making him guard a tomb in this godforsaken place for over 200 years. If he had known Charles III was dead, would he have willingly suffered? Just wait. Once I clear the light power from my body, I'll go out and enjoy myself thoroughly. Ah, this young man is truly kind. The roasted chicken tastes so good, and the wine isn't some cheap brand. If I get the chance, I definitely won't kill him so quickly. Killing was still a must. How could the master of the great house Mycarvian allow a mortal who had seen his pathetic side to live in this world? Suemo used a hearthstone to return to Harkins. Then he went to the mercenary hall, specifically pulling up the bounty board and browsing the information on it. Soon, he found the target he wanted. Chu Banxian, male, level 29, profession beastmaster, crime, flirted with my boyfriend and then stole him away. I am willing to offer 20 gold coins for brothers and sisters to kill him once. Screenshot or video as proof. Level 29 and a beastmaster. Killing him shouldn't be difficult. There was an information retrieval button on the bounty board. If other players knew information about this person, they could fill it in. Especially useful were the updates on this person's coordinates from the Chaoyang masses. Generally speaking, to put a bounty on someone, besides providing known information and the reason for the bounty, one also had to pay two sums of money. One was for the killer, and one was for the information retrieval system. Suemo looked at the most recently updated coordinates for this person and confirmed that he was leveling up in Lancelot Grassland with 2 companions, killing level 32 prairie lions. If nothing unexpected happened, he should still be in that area now.